Hi and welcome everyone. My name is Ian Thomas Tafoya,
I'm Trisha Garcia Nelson,
and you are listening to Echo Colorado.
your environmental news and to-dos in 15 minutes or less.
Today we're going to be talking about some water policy in the Water Quality Control Commission.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the Colorado Quality Control Commission does?
The Colorado Water Quality Control Commission is an administrative agency. So it's a board of individuals that are appointed by the governor and approved by the Senate of the Colorado legislature. They're responsible for developing very specific water quality policies across the state. And the actual water quality control division of the government administers the policy that's adopted by the commission. The commission is an avenue where businesses, utilities, and we, the people, have an opportunity to let our voices be heard about policies that are affecting our water quality.
And I know there is some rulemaking that's coming up here in the next couple of weeks. What do we need to get people to go and speak about at this next coming hearing?
So we're asking people to show up at the Water Quality Control Commission to have a conversation about protecting water, rivers, and streams from degradation and its water quality. So protecting our rivers and waterways from pollution associated with human activities that decreases water quality is the core value of the Clean Water Act. And Colorado sets its baseline standards to protect the uses, fishery, recreation, drinking water supply, agriculture at every single stream. Anti degradation policies protect water quality better than those baseline standards. And so we know that standards change. They mostly get stronger as scientists learn more about toxins that are in our water. And we also understand that there are new pollutants that are emerging, forever chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and climate change that are threatening our water. And so we want to definitely make sure we protect rules that protect our water quality from going the wrong way.
And I think it's really important that we remind our listeners we are facing a water crisis in Colorado. We are facing extreme droughts in some places in Colorado. And the Colorado River doesn't just feed Colorado, it feeds communities all the way down to Mexico. And so it's extremely important that we come out to protect our water.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I think we are very concerned, of course, by climate crisis. The same scientists that we trust to send us to Mars are telling us that we are headed for a multi-decade mega drought with Colorado in the bullseye. We've seen the numbers, they don't lie. Some of the highest temperature increases in the lower 48 states. Boom, Grand Junction. This is where we get our food from. This is where water is sent to grow food for the rest of the world in a lot of ways. And so, we need to be thinking about that. And then on top of that, we're the headwater state. Really, no water. The water starts here, and so we have a deep and rooted responsibility, I think, to ensure that water quality stays good because the people downstream need that from us. And I would also just acknowledge that we are an indigenous stolen land. My ancestors are from the headwaters of the Rio Grande. My Pueblo ancestors, are connected to climate loss from drought. And I think that we see the writing on the wall. We need people to get involved. And I know that in 15 minutes, you have the ability to leave here with the tools to show up to the Water Quality Control Commission and say, you know what? We're not going to have a rollback that's going to allow industry to degrade rivers. We are going to make sure that the rules are as protective for industrial areas like Pueblo or Commerce City or you name it, Grand Junction, than they would be for a wilderness area that deserves protection as well in the mountains.
And I think it's also important to mention that the commission reviews the standards every 5 years. So if we don't show up and we don't come to the hearing on June 14th, we may have to wait another 5 years before we can try to make any changes to the rulemaking. And that's really, really important because our climate can look completely different in the next 5 years.
What the commission is proposing to do with the changes to this anti-degradation rule is to make it easier to degrade water quality without having to show a reason why.
Another thing that I really want to highlight is if approved, polluters would be able to ask the commission to remove anti-degradation protections from stretches of rivers most in need that may already be polluted. And we know that a lot of these stretches of rivers and waterways are often located in lower income communities that, we say this time and time and again, have always been the ones most impacted by pollution.
One of the impacts of this proposal is the segment of the South Platte River that runs through Commerce City, which has historically been affected by pollution associated with treated sewage releases from Denver's wastewater facility, the Suncor refinery, and other industrial activity. So over the years, we've organized to try to improve the water quality along this river. And now what we're seeing is an effort to set up rules that will take us in the wrong direction.
And I know that we've missed the deadline to have our listeners submit their comments in writing, which was June 2nd. But the listeners can still sign up to give oral testimony at the public hearing on June 14th. And we do have some talking points available for you all to scan through. Please feel free to use them and share them. It's definitely worth taking the time to protect our water for the next 5 years.
This is something that you can sign up for. When you get on to the Zoom, you can ask where you are in line. I think it's great to do that from the very beginning so you can try to gauge some time for ourselves. We have been having large conversations about how do we improve the community engagement process. It kind of blows my mind that the DMV can text you to tell you when you're up, but we haven't really gotten that into public hearings. I will say that the Zoom is definitely in a better position. And just as an example testimony, I want to work my way through a couple of these talking points for you. It would start by something like, my name is Ian Thomas Tafoya. I am a Coloradan. My ancestors are from the headwaters of the Rio Grande, both Jicarilla, Apache, and Okewinge. I am here protecting streams from degradation caused by human activity. And this is the core of the Clean Water Act, and I believe in the Clean Water Act. Threats from climate change coupled with increased demand are creating unforeseen stresses on our river. And now is not the time to lessen environmental protections and increase pollution. Anti-degradation rules were designed to prevent degradation, not to facilitate more pollution. The anti-degradation rule was first proposed by the commission as it was evaluating levels of water quality and protecting portions of the South Platte River that run through Commerce City. This segment of the river has been historically affected by discharges of sewage treatment from Denver Metro wastewater and other industrial polluters. And over these years, the river has been improving. Now is not the time to go backwards. Thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions. So you see, Patricia, we do this. It's easy to just go through your talking points, practice it. For me, what I do is I put it on the screen. So I don't even have to look at myself. Because I think sometimes you're like,
Mhm.
oh, is that what I really look like?
Yeah. And I think, that you may hear some of the same concerns from other speakers, but the main thing is to tell the commission how this is going to impact you directly. Because even though we have the same concerns, the impacts for me and you may be completely different. And I think that's the most important thing that we highlight is that we have the same concerns, but we are different people, and this is going to impact us differently along the line.
100%. Water protectors unite. All you got to do is sign up in the link below or here or maybe over here. But the most important thing is you go online and sign up because you can't win if you don't play. And it's okay if something comes up that day and you can't make it. But even the fact that the commission knows that you were counted as somebody whose voices was concerned about this issue does influence decision makers.
And one of our goals here on the show is to be able to provide all this information, not just in English, but we also want to reach out to everybody that speaks Spanish. We're going to try to get this information out in even more languages as we are able to grow and we have the resources to be able to do that. So we will provide this testimony and all the speaking points in Spanish as well, because you know what? If you're going to show up and you're going to speak Spanish, they better find a way to understand you.
100% language justice is so critical.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I'm really glad that there are other people that really are passionate about getting the information out to as many as people as possible. Because to be completely honest, I had no idea this was going on until you brought it up and said we need to talk about this.
Yeah, and just, for the listeners, if you're out there and you're like, I have an environmental issue for you from across Colorado, that is what we are here for. Please write us, please submit your information. The power of all of us working collectively, because you're right. There are so many avenues, there's so many bureaucratic processes that we do need people to step up and say, hey, I see an alarm here. And then the rest of us need to show up and support. And that's really the power building.
Yeah. And I think, as we move forward with all these things that we want to do, we are going to be able to hold these policymakers accountable, and really show that we have power in numbers. We have community members that care and that care about each other, and we are going to lift each other up and make sure that our voices are heard and that we are able to make change and make a positive change, because we're all going to be living here together in 20, 30 years. So.
Thank you for tuning in again to Echo Colorado, to all the listeners. We really appreciate you showing up to get your 15 minutes of environmental news and your to-dos. And don't forget, June 14th is coming up quick.
Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you next time.